and they'll probably tell you not to. That's for professional race car drivers. Yeah, it's because it's liability BS. When you shift your manual transmission without using the clutch, you are wearing your synchronizer bands really badly. I'm not taking shifting advice from a Yank. Well, if I've offended you, sir, I do apologize. It's got the same flag on this here Viper's up on the moon. I thought we were pretty good with machinery, and I thought it's pretty cool y'all don't have to be speaking German right now. What's up, people? So last week I did a video on stick shifting tips or driving a manual transmission for those that aren't American. In my Porsche 944 last week, got a lot of views, a lot of people really liked it. But in the comments, I saw some comments with some big time misinformation, a number of people correcting some of the things that I was doing, which was based in good advice and reality, but also they completely missed the mark. I saw some young people write about what they do or some tricks they do with shifting that honestly is a horrible thing to do, and I think it's important to talk about it now. And one really fun comment from an English guy that I would like to bring up. But also I'd like to cover a little bit more on double clutching and what the point of that is and why to do it, when not to bother, and also relating to toe heel shifting. So today we're in the 1997 Dodge Viper GTS that I've been pretty well known for having. This car's been featured on VinWiki with regard to when that woman pulled out in front of me and got in a wreck. And also was featured on the Petrolicious channel, which was just an amazing honor. So if you guys want to, after this, go over to Petrolicious and check out the Viper GTS entitled Truly Raw. So first thing I want to talk about, and truthfully, I do read the comments and I do care. I love engaging with you guys. And some of them annoyed the crap out of me because it was just like, oh my God, I can't believe this. So let's just go with this. This isn't stick shifting, this is steering. When you are driving a car at any speed, 9.3, that's all there is to it. 9.3 is the most efficient place to put your hands because if you have to correct and do things, you have the best, most leverage over it ergonomically with the nature of how your body interacts with the car. You can turn the wheel the farthest at one time without taking your hands off. So 9.3, if you have to shuffle, that's fine or whatever. But an old technique, I'm just gonna turn the car off so you can hear this better. An old thing people did back in the day was, so if I gotta make a turn, you just turn the wheel. But in the old day, you'd see people grab the inside of the wheel like this and turn it like this, which is a big no-no when you're driving. Because if you grab the wheel like this, not only if the airbag goes off, it'll break your arm, okay, so that's bad. But two, you don't have much correcting ability. But the reason people do that is because they don't have enough leverage. And in the old days when you didn't have power steering, you need to grab the steering wheel like this to turn it. So like right now, the car is off, right? And I'll put the key to the on position so it doesn't lock. For me to turn this with no power steering, I gotta go like this. It's not easy. But, and this is a Viper, it's got pretty big tires. If I go like this, I can do it with one hand a lot easier, okay? But this car has power steering, so I can just drive it like a normal person. In the last video, Thursday, I was driving an early Porsche 944. It had no power steering. So when I'm at a dead stop pulling out of the parking lot, or a dead stop here pulling away, I put my hand in like this and turn it like that because it's easier while I get rolling and going. There's no airbag on that car, and I was not traveling any sort of speed where the car could even theoretically possibly slide out. So in that circumstance, with the car with no power steering, it is acceptable to use the hooking technique like this to get the leverage you need. And if trolls on the internet that went to 2 track days in their entire life and had somebody that drove a 911 a bunch of times last year tells them never to do that, yeah, think about it before you say who you're talking to. Just want to throw that out there. It was a little annoying, but I do appreciate the fact that people brought that up because now it's the opportunity for us to talk about this. So in general, when you're driving, doesn't matter if it's on the street or track, you have your hands on the outside like this and turn. Never do the hooking thing while you're driving at any speed, even if it's not a power boosted car. But if you're driving a car with no airbag and no power steering, it's perfectly reasonable to do this if you have to in a parking lot. There's nothing wrong with it at all. You're probably gonna need that leverage. Heck, I needed that leverage in the Porsche, okay? So anyway, we're in the Viper today, and I wanna bring out some other interesting things. Actually, I probably should have done it in the parking lot there the other day, just relating to shifting a manual transmission, because I don't think there's really great advice out there for young people. Now, let's just go over some of the wackiest things I've heard. one of those that I talked about in the video last week is power shifting. The people that, you know, you floor it and you keep your foot on the gas and you don't let the RPMs come down when you're upshifting it, so you can bang the clutch and get that little extra boost. That was an old time thing people usually did back in the days of rough and tumble muscle cars, so you get a little extra boost when you're drag racing. And that's a technique that you can use, but you'll also just obliterate a lot of European cars doing that. They're not made for that, and that's really not a great technique for driving on the street. That's an old school drag racing technique. Just want to throw that out there. The other thing I did we'll go over is the nature of double clutching and such, but this is one that kind of boggles my mind, and I didn't bring it up in the last video because frankly, I forgot all about this because there's no reason to do it. And that's in a normal, notice I'm saying pretty normal car with a manual transmission, a street car. They have synchro mesh gearboxes. Now, basically all transmissions work the same way. All the gears in the transmission are constantly spinning, but that doesn't mean they're engaging the wheels, okay? So there's two shafts in a transmission with all the gears, right? Generally speaking. And one of the gears, like for first, second, third, fourth, or fifth, okay? Each one of those gears, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, whatever, they all have two gears. They're always connecting and spinning. One of those is mechanically connected to the shaft, okay? So it's like rigidly attached to the shaft with spline, so it turns the shaft. The other one is free spinning, okay? So you would think, how does any one of those gears like first, you know, all of them, how do they engage the wheels if one of the actual physical gears is not connected to the shaft mechanically? Well, that's because whatever gear next to it is. So they have what are called dogs, and they're little teeth on the side of the gearbox that engage the other teeth. So if this is one of the gears that spins loosely on the shaft and doesn't drive it, then the one next to it is a gear that does. And the shift fork grabs this one, slides it over, and connects the dog. So that if your upper shaft, the power's coming through to this gear, okay, it's mechanically connected, drives the power down to this gear, which would normally spin on the shaft, but since it moves over with the shift fork and connects the dogs of this one that's rigidly connected, that's how it engages. Now, I bring that up because, I'm just gonna turn this off, we're out in the middle of the boonies. A lot of young people pride themselves on the ability to shift a synchro mesh normal transmission without using the clutch. And yes, it can be done. And they're all excited because they think it's faster and they're better and they're race car drivers. And I love the initiative that they did to do that, and I love that it actually takes some good skill to do that. But the truth of the matter is, it's not faster. It's terrible to your synchronizers and your forks, and that doesn't make you a race car driver. It's not worth doing. I've done it every now and then, or if I get really lazy, sometimes I'll slip the car out of gear, but I always push in the clutch to stick it into another gear, even if I'm matching the RPMs perfectly. And I'm gonna demonstrate why you shouldn't do that right now by screwing up my Dodge Viper. Yeah. Okay, so, young people, old people, whatever, when you shift your manual transmission without using the clutch, you are wearing your synchronizer bands really badly, because when you go to slide that gear over, before it connects the dogs, it engages the synchros. And what the synchros do are, they're a way that when you have the clutch engaged, they act kind of like bands or brakes, so to speak, or little clutches. And they make, so if this gear is spinning fast and this one's spinning slower, when they start to engage like this, they make it so those gears will match the speed. And then the dogs can slip in, okay? In a racing gearbox, a real one with dogs, it may only have 6 big lugs, okay? And so that's why you can shift it without the clutch if you match it, because they go whoop bam like this. And even if you're off a little bit, if you do it fast enough and it doesn't grind the dogs, it'll go whoop bam. You might break one off if you're a terrible driver, but that's how it works. And that's how a motorcycle works and a lot of old semi-trucks and tractors and stuff. But on synchro mesh transmission, there's zillions of little tiny dogs, okay? Zillion, like, I don't know, 50, 60 of them? You can't just bang it in there. So every time you do that, you're wearing out your synchronizers. And I'm gonna elaborate that right now. Oh, I'm sorry, Viper. So the car is idling and it's in neutral and I've got my foot off the clutch. And I learned this back in the day with Ferraris, because Ferrari Testarossas, the clutch discs are, I believe, 2-plate clutches, and they'll kind of freeze to each other to the flywheel if you don't drive it. So you can push the clutch in and you can't stick it in gear because it's still driving that until you break it loose. And I learned this back when, which we should talk about Ferrari gearboxes in a minute. But if I try to stick this in first gear, the car will actually start creeping a little because I'm destroying my synchronizer right now. Watch. It's starting to creep right now like that. And it won't go in gear. And that was happening because I am grinding that first gear synchronizer that's trying to spin it. And if I held it there hard enough, long enough, if I didn't completely roast the synchronizer, eventually the car would be going the speed at idle that it would slide into the dog. And every time you try to shift your manual transmission without using the clutch, that's exactly what you're doing. Okay, so I'm gonna demonstrate doing that as well, but it's just not faster. So just don't do it. Like, I get you wanna do it once or twice just to say you can, it's really cool, but it's not worth it. So let's go up to a normal speed. Now, I don't practice it, and frankly, I haven't driven the Viper in a while because I've been driving the 944. The 944 has a much wider gear ratio than this and totally different dynamics, so I'll probably screw this up, but I'm gonna show you. So, what gear am I in? Fourth gear? So I'm in fourth gear, and I'm going to, without the clutch, I'm gonna put it into third. So I got to gently let off the pressure, okay, like let off the gas to be able to get it into neutral, blip it to get the RPM up to third, and then stick it in third without hurting it, okay? So this is me doing that right now. Now, let's do it. Come on. It's just not worth doing, you guys. Like, it's not made for that. I can slip it out of gear without hurting it, like I let off gently and do that. And sometimes, as a note, when I'm being lazy, if I'm like really sleepy and tired and I'm coming up to a stop sign, I don't want to downshift and stuff, I'll literally just let off the gas and slip it into neutral like that without having to push in the clutch button. That's all right. And then you can just brake right foot. I'm being super lazy. I just brake up to it. I'm really tired. And then when I stop, I'm gonna go ahead and just push in the clutch and stick it in first gear. That's my lazy way of driving stick, okay? So, I hate shifting without the clutch. It's just not worth doing. Let's go ahead and try to do it from second to third gear. No clutch. Ugh, I hate doing that. No, come on. Nope, it's not worth doing, you guys. Some cars do it a lot better. My Viper's like, hey, what the hell are you doing? You suck, get out. Vipers do that to people who can't drive across the board. That's why I hated doing this. My 944 will actually let you get away with slipping it out of gear without using the clutch and putting it in a lot more. So there's lots of different transmissions out there in the world that let you get away with different things. But across the board, generally speaking, if you have a synchro mesh manual transmission, it is not worth shifting without the clutch. Okay, that's cool you did it, but you're just screwing up your synchronizers when you do it and your forks. And even if you are truly so amazing as to do that perfectly, you're still wearing it a little bit, okay? But the thing is, you cannot shift that fast doing that. You cannot shift as fast as a good fast shift with the clutch. You just can't. So just don't do that. If you want to do it, okay, but you're gonna wear your tranny more if it makes you feel better. But if you think that's making you faster, it's not. And we're all human, okay? You know, I'm a pretty good driver. I've won a few races in my life, but I don't do it. There's no good value to it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and accelerate. Now the Viper's pretty neat because, you know, it'll legitimately blow the tires off pretty easy. So you gotta drive it smartly, okay? But the reason why I so enjoy driving this Dodge Viper just regularly all the time, and I don't have a problem with it, is because it's the nature of being connected with your machine. Being connected with changing gears and understanding everything that's going on, understanding your tires, and the traction that's out there. And that's why I've been successful at driving one of what is considered the most hard to drive or dangerous cars that are out there. Because the people that have difficulty in a Dodge Viper are the kind of people who do not respect the machine. They don't understand how it works. They don't understand the dynamics that are happening. And they just get into it because they think it's a flashy sports car and they're cool. And then when their egos pop up and they don't respect it and they don't understand it, it's gonna bite them. So I bring this statement to you in no way to toot my own horn. I bring it to you to relate the value of driving a manual transmission daily. I don't get tickets in this car, but I have no radar laser detectors or jammers. I don't want them. And the thing that's nice about having a stick shift car, look, this car is an example. In comparison to a Ferrari, I don't have to rev the crap out of it to go fast. So if I just want to lug around, you know, like this, I'm real chill, I'm comfortable, I got my foot off the clutch like this. I'm over here, there's a railroad track coming up. You know, I guess I could downshift, whatever. Like, you know, it's at like 1500 RPM. Looking both ways, chill. You know, so now it's like at 1200 RPM, but if I'm just driving normal, I can just roll into the gas, 2000, 2500, and you know, if I feel like going faster, I just put my foot down, you know, and then, woo, all right, we're speeding. I just went over a railroad track in 4th gear, lugging around, and I didn't have to shift. So it's kind of nice to have a car like this versus something that revs really high, like an S2000 or a Ferrari or something, where you got to be shifting all the time. It's kind of like the difference between riding a Ducati, which would be sort of like the vibe with, you know, a big V twin with torque, to this Viper, as riding a, you know, a Jap bike 4-cylinder revs to the moon would be like driving a Ferrari or something. I like riding Ducatis because they have torque, not to shift as much. But that's neither here nor there. I just want to talk about that clutch aspect to you. So let's go over the nature of double clutching, why and when. Let's go over the nature of double clutching, why and when it's valuable, and then lastly, toe heel shift, downshifting again, and some things I heard. So, double clutching. In modern gearboxes, synchro mesh gearboxes, it is not necessary whatsoever unless there is something wrong with the synchronizers in your gearbox, okay? Period. As cars get older, even good cars, the synchronizers might start wearing out. So, as an example, if your gearbox is cold and like the tolerances haven't warmed up and they're free flowing and your oil hasn't thinned out from being warm, an older car, most especially Ferraris from the 70s and 80s, you might not even be able to physically put it in the 2nd gear until it warms up. Like, at all. There's plenty of Ferraris out there that, like, don't even bother trying to go in a 2nd. It won't go in. But if you double clutch the upshifts and downshifts, it might let you go in. Because by double clutching, you put it into neutral, let the clutch out, and you have purposefully spun all the gears to the speed they need to go, whether you're going up or down, so that hopefully the gear dogs, they will slide right into each other without a lot of force. Now remember, on all transmissions, I don't care how tough they are, if you are banging hard, whether it's a Ferrari that doesn't want to go into 2nd gear or some weird's going on, you are at risk of bending a shift fork. When you bend a shift fork, you're not going to have a good day. You're probably going to have to rebuild a transmission, which isn't fun. So, with the exception of old muscle cars and like Hurst shifters and stuff that you gotta rough and tumble be a hooligan to, it requires some muscle. Generally speaking, you want to use the least amount of force you need to do gear changes swiftly and intelligently. If you are punching and beating the crap out of it and you feel real tough and you think you're a real cool guy driving real hard, you're probably just beating the crap out of your transmission, man. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it some go and just shift a little quicker. This is like my street fast, not really like race fast. I just want to give the gear and the shifter forks just enough time to engage on its own rate. I don't want to beat the crap out of it. You know, if I was racing, okay, road racing, drag racing, whatever, I might be a little harder on it because I want to win. But again, just remember that now. Okay, so I remember back in the day, Porsche 944s are pretty cheap. So every idiot that wants to impress girls at the bar would buy them, be like, I got a Porsche, I'm real cool. And they probably still do this, but nobody knows what a Porsche is like. They don't know what that is anymore, so it's not quite the same. But what would happen is, I'd go to look at Porsche 944s and they'd be ragged out from these idiots that try to impress girls at a bar that can't drive. And they'd wear out the synchros. And it would be such a sad thing to me, is because I'd find a car maybe pretty good, and it had a bad synchronizer, which means you gotta either go through the gearbox or replace the transaxle in the back, which is added cost. But there's no reason to have to replace it by shifting badly. You just need to use the clutch properly and just don't beat the crap out of it, okay? If the car is jerking like this, you're probably not doing it right. If the RPMs are up and you're slipping the clutch, you're probably not doing it right. So think about those things. Another tidbit is, a lot of people say, this is especially for people who do track days and racing, if you're doing track days and you're racing and your hand is here all the time, you're not doing it right, okay? The gear shift is to shift gears. It's not a place just to rest your hand. Now, that being said, I'll rest my hand on it sometimes, okay, when I'm driving on the street, because I'm going straight, I don't have to correct, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm just gonna leave my hand here, or maybe I'm flipping through the radio and going like this, and I'm not gonna go like, oh, I'm a race car driver every single time, okay? Now, generally, that's the best way to drive, is to get your hand up here, but you're not actually gonna do it all the time. Now, here's the thing, because I know a bunch of like Monday morning quarterback track day guys right now are going to tell you, Casey, you never leave your hand on a stick shift. Never, 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 never. Okay, well, there's a couple of reasons why. One, that's terrible form if you're race driving, because if your hand is here when you're in gear, it's harder to correct. So your hands are supposed to be here unless you're switching gears. Bam, you switch gears, get your hand back here, okay? That's real race driving. But the other reason is a big person with a big ham-fisted thing has got, I got my hand on this shifter, I'm gonna drive, here we go. They may not realize they're pulling on the shifter. If I take my hand right here, let's say it's in 5th gear right now, if I have my hand here and I'm resting, I might be putting forward pressure on this gear, which is wearing out my shifter fork and potentially synchros. You're wearing your transmission if you're pushing on it. If you're just resting straight up and down and I'm just putting force straight down into it, which trust me, I know the difference between doing that. I've worked on my own stuff. You're not gonna hurt it. If I'm flipping the radio, you're not gonna hurt it. But you got a big ham fist and you're pushing on it like this. You're like, I'm racing out here, I'm on shift, I'm on wear, and I'm pulling back on it. You're wearing out your transmission and your shifter forks and stuff. So just don't do that. And I know I'm like overacting this whole scenario, but I think you guys can relate and understand. And this does not mean a dig of anybody if you're doing that. We all learn, we all get better. But the other thing is, if you're a Monday morning quarterback, because you've been to 1 or 2 track days in your life, or you've started autocrossing 6 months ago, you know, maybe there's a nicer way to say to the guy that's been on the podium at many races and been racing a long time, building a lot of cars, that hey, maybe if I'm going like this, it's because there's no power steering and it's really hard to turn the steering wheel when the car's not moving, okay? And hey, maybe this isn't the best way to shift. Why are you doing that? So what I mean to say is, if we're all gonna learn and enjoy cars and driving together, don't be one of those trolls where you're trying to like think you're really cool and tough by saying you're better, you know, like somebody than that, because maybe there's a really good reason that we all can have a good discussion for in doing that. So that's kind of some general things. So double clutching is when you let out the clutch in neutral, blip the throttle, then push the clutch back in to slip it in the next gear that you want. But when you're upshifting, there could be some value to double clutching, but of course you don't blip the throttle because your RPMs are going down. You just let the clutch out real quick in that gear. So if I were to, you know, just do an example of that, let me see, I'll go from 3rd to 4th that. I will double clutch the upshift from 3rd to 4th. There we go. So here we go, neutral out, there. That's it. I let off the gas so it comes down to the next place and I just double clutched it. I have no need to do that in this car because all the synchros are great. I don't double clutch an upshift. I double clutch downshifts just out of habit across the board because I drive so many old cars that have slower synchronizers, maybe thicker gearbox oil, they're not warmed up, and it's just the habit that I developed. But it's not necessary in cars with good synchronizers in modern cars. And then when I go race, if I'm racing a car with the dog box, whether it's something with like a March Hewlin Transax, like an IndyCar Can-Am car, or if it's got a Jericho, I just change my driving style based upon the car and the race. So just keep those things in mind, guys. These are all different techniques that just help you, you know, paint the canvas of the road or the racing track with whatever car you have. So you have to understand the car you have to do something like that there. Now, toe heel downshifting exists for one reason. Let's say I'm driving along with 5th gear right now, and I'm gonna start braking, and then I'm gonna blip it, you know, with my right foot like this so I can maintain constant braking pressure. The reason being is so that you can drive real smooth and real efficiently and be in the gear you need to before you get to a corner. So if I wanted to brake, I'd be ready for, let's say, a 3rd gear corner coming up here, but I don't know how to toe heel downshift. You only have 2 options, well, a couple options, they're all kind of lame. You can start braking, okay, and then let off the brakes and then downshift like this, at which point you're going slow because you're not braking, okay? And then I start braking again, and then I downshift into 3rd like this, which is not effective, okay? You want to toe heel downshift so you can maintain constant braking pressure, okay? While downshifting, that helps your torque braking to the rear from engine braking. And then the other thing, which is not ideal, is let's say I want to be in a 3rd gear corner, so I start braking from 5th gear like this, I just leave it in 5th, and then I get right before the corner, and then I blip the throttle and like that and go into 3rd gear. You're still losing time. You're not going to be effective around a track. Anybody who can toe heel well with the same car at the threshold of braking is going to smoke you. And you're going to potentially be upsetting the car right at the entry of the corner where you don't want to, especially if you get into a situation that pushes you too past your comfort zone. So that's why toe heel downshifting is really valuable. If you toe heel downshift well, you are in no way hurting your car. You don't necessarily need to downshift like that all the time, so you might be wearing things a little bit more. But I do remember my dad's like, oh, you're gonna wear out your car downshifting like that. Well, no, Dad, because I'm actually good and I know how to use these techniques, unlike you. They're not gonna teach you those techniques in normal driving class, most especially in America at all. And they'll probably tell you not to. That's for professional race car drivers. Yeah, it's because it's liability BS. So they're basically telling you to not be very proficient at stick shift driving. I know there's a load of Europeans out there that can do that. You guys grew up driving stick. I think that's really cool. It's getting harder and harder to buy stick shift transmissions, but for all the Europeans that have been a little bit arrogant towards Americans in the comments, I'll just say, hey, can't buy a stick shift Ferrari or Lamborghini anymore, so maybe don't go knocking us so badly. Anyway, I just want to bring that up. I hope you guys are enjoying what's going on and what I'm talking about here. We can do more. If you guys have comments about certain things you've heard or you want to learn techniques, I'll be happy to do that. Maybe in the future, if you guys really like these videos, I'll put a camera on the feet so you can see exactly it, and I'll just specifically demonstrate all the techniques, maybe even in some race cars on the track this year when all that opens up. But I do want to bring up one comment that frankly annoyed me. Not because I'm American, just because it annoyed me. And this guy writes to me, I'm not taking shifting advice from a Yank. Okay, so presumably he's from the UK, obviously. And that's sort of derogatory. Well, partner, I'm really sorry you don't want to listen to this here American driving a stick shift car or moving the gear lever, as y'all call it there, up on your little island. But you know, historically, we may not got Formula One no more, but we're pretty good with machines. Driving a big old American car like this, it's like ripping that lever on a 45 long Colt single action revolver, popping off bottles like that, or loading up a flintlock musket real fast. I think if you guys were as good as us at doing that, maybe you'd have more to say about what we do on a daily basis. We build a rocket, put that on the moon. It's got the same flag on this here, Viper's up on the moon. You know, I can understand why you don't want to take advice from us, but I really don't appreciate you saying you just don't want to learn from a Yank. I think we all got something to teach. I think even you might have something to teach, and I might just listen to that. So if I've offended you, sir, I do apologize. I thought we were pretty good with machinery, and I thought it was pretty cool y'all don't have to be speaking German right now. I'm sorry, guys. I really don't pull out that silly old American BS arrogant crap like that. I just thought it was funny. Like, if you're gonna do that, man, like, don't. Just don't. Can we all just be cool? This is an international community. We're all car enthusiasts. There's plenty of opportunity to learn. And I'm sorry, man. Like, if I'm just too American for you and you don't want to listen to me talk about a stick shift because you call it a gear lever, then there's probably some English guys that can teach you how to drive too. But that's it, guys. I hope you had a little bit of fun riding around the Viper, watching me destroy my synchros. But have fun driving stick or manual transmission, everybody out there. I hope if you have the opportunity to teach somebody, you have good patience and can find a way, because it just makes cars so much more fun. And maybe someday Ferrari and Lamborghini will see the light like other car companies and offer a proper manual gearbox again, instead of just selling out to a bunch of nouveau rich wankers who can't drive. Yes! Casey is trolling the Italian exotic car manufacturers for selling out just money. Stick shift's more fun anyway. See you guys. If you enjoyed today's video, and naturally that you will subscribe, but please click that bell so I can continue to bring you wholesome and entertaining automotive content. Also, a huge thanks to Avalon King ceramic coating. They're supporting this channel and making this all possible. But more importantly, I'm looking forward to use it on all of my vehicles, including my old dirt bike. Ceramic coating bonds directly to the surface of your paint, trim, and plastics to give a long-lasting shine that beats all waxes. It lasts for years and it's easy to maintain. I've got it on my Viper right now, and my car has never looked this good. So give them a try. Again, thanks for watching, and I look forward to see you next time.